This is our vegetable garden at my family's 500-year-old English country farmhouse, and this year me and my partner Nicola decided it was time it got some TLC and some renovation in order for it to be up and running perfect for the summer months when we can get as much fresh fruit and veg as possible. My dad built 9 large raised garden beds quite a few years back now, and the wood, I'll be honest, is starting to rot away, so it's about time that we take these apart where they're rotting through and get some fresh planks and some fresh stain on them to hopefully keep them in good shape for a few more years to come. As you can see here, the wood really wasn't, well, it was on his last legs, we'll say that much at least. The wood lice had eaten most of it at this point. So luckily we still had some spare planks that we had used to build these in the first place in the shed. So it was a simple case of cutting them to size, screwing them in and restaining them so that they will last a few more years and not rot out. To be fair, these ones have lasted, I don't know, maybe 8 years, could be longer. Couldn't even tell you when these were built, to be honest. So yeah, just basically cutting each plank to size, sanding it down. I started off like properly sanding every plank down, like this, with the electric sander, getting it all nice and smooth for a good finish, but I soon sort of gave up with that because I had to replace a lot more planks than I thought I would need to, and this was taking a lot longer than it should have, so I kind of expedited things and gave up on the sanding eventually. But for now, yeah, I was getting a nice good finish on these smooth planks. These are right at the back as well, so you don't even see them, but hey, at least they look good. And here's Nicola putting in some new stain whilst I paint the new planks to go in. This was quite a simple job. It took me so much, well, it took me and Nicola so much longer than it should have. I don't know why, because like we were doing this almost every day for for a few weeks, so I couldn't tell you why it took so long. We probably shouldn't build a house considering how long it took us just to put some planks on some vegetable patches, but hey ho. So yeah, we were staining them up and putting in the fresh ones. It seemed to all of them seemed to rot along like where the soil line was. Some of the ones underneath the soil line weren't as bad, and as also the ground level had raised up a bit, so they were kind of buried anyway, so there was no need to put fresh planks on there. It was mostly sort of this middle layer that needed fresh wood. And then for the wood that was still solid, we just got in there with a wire brush, scraped off all this heavy moss and algae growth that had built up over the years, and any paint that was left on underneath, to give it somewhat of a finish ready to stain over. But as you can see, yeah, at this point I'd given up sanding them down. It didn't take me long to give up, but it was going to take so much longer if I sanded everything down, so we just went for the wire brush approach. It doesn't give as nice a finish obviously, but this was a case of bulk. Maybe 3 or 4 hours altogether today just to replace some boards and not even finish painting it. So I think, yeah, all of the beds are going to take a bit longer than expected, but so yeah, I'm going to crack on and finish this last bed and see how far I get, I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, it was taking a lot longer than expected, so don't hire us to build you a house because you won't move in before you retire. But here we are, just taking off all that really thick algae and moss. It was basically alive, the outside of these beds, especially where it'd been in the shade, so it stayed very damp. And I upgraded myself here to a much bigger brush, which I'm pretty sure is a wallpaper brush, so I stopped using that. Anyway, here you can see some of how rotted. This is on the next bed along. This is like the tortoise pen, and yeah, this bottom plank was basically mush at this point, so I just leave it out. And it's a bit trickier here where it's on the ground level to get a new plank in, so I ended up just sort of digging it out. And this string line is like, the string line is where the wall of the bed should be, and you can see how much it's bowed out over the years from the weight of the soil. So I just needed to dig in and replace these rotten posts, because the posts had rotted out and then the pressure of the soil had bowed the planks out. So fresh posts were needed in order to sort of straighten it out a bit better. But you can see in the background here, the bed, once it had been painted, Nicola was going around doing the insides as well, and they actually look so much better. With just all we did was put new wood on, a new stain, and yeah, they just look a million times better than they did before. Me trying to figure out how I can bend it to my will, trying to get it straight in line with the rope there. And as you can probably tell already, not even that far into this video, I don't really know what I'm doing at all, so I'm just sort of making stuff up as I go along. So here I just put in a stake that was way too short, and I'll figure that out eventually, that I need to put a longer stake in and actually hammer it in. But here I thought I'd keep in all these stupid mistakes, because you don't need to know what you're doing to try and build something better, I guess. Just give it a crack and you sort of learn as you go. So yeah, don't worry about being an expert, but I'm definitely not going to build anything that's too structurally complex, I can tell you that much, because I was struggling with this, and it's literally 2 bits of wood. Yeah, that's it. Maybe if I kick it enough, it'll bend to my will. Because of the soil was bowing out the wood, I needed to like dig away from the inside to make room to bend the planks back into place. So that's what I'm doing here. But because they've been like that for so long, the planks are just now naturally bowed. And then I was trying to beat wedges into the ground to straighten the post up. Getting desperate here. I do eventually figure out that I need to get a long post and put it in the ground level. But yeah, it took me a couple tries trying to figure that out. And as I say, I had to dig out quite a lot of the soil underneath to actually fit a new plank in, because the natural ground level had raised up a bit just from layers of soil and whatnot. So I sort of had to dig in to get a new plank to fit. And I think I drilled it into this post here, hoping that it would straighten everything else out. But yeah, this is when I finally figure out that I needed a sharp stake to actually go into the ground that's longer than the wall. There we go, a nice long stake. So yeah, I shoved this into the ground, and that actually held things in place, rather than just trying to fix them all to a short post that wasn't actually in the ground. But hey ho, we live and we learn. You got to do these things to figure it out in the first place, I suppose. And it's a lot more satisfying when you kind of figure it out as you go, rather than like, I don't know, just Googling how to do it. But I probably should have Googled how to do it, because this is just wasting so much time. Trying to wedge the soil down the side to straighten it up. But now I'd got that in, the boards would actually straighten up a bit. They weren't perfect, but I wasn't really going for perfect, just because I probably couldn't make it perfect, so have realistic goals. I think maybe a couple years ago, we decided to paint this one white, or maybe like a light blue. I've no idea why we decided to do that, because it instantly just became covered in mud, as you would expect, because it's a piece of wood that holds in soil. So yeah, we decided that brown was definitely the best way to go with the beds. Don't go too crazy with them. So here I just needed to chop the top of the post off to obviously level it off with the rest. And get straight on with a wire brush. You can see the actual wood here coming out underneath the white paint. This came off a lot easier than the other stuff. And this is what the majority of this part of the project was just scraping and painting. And you don't think it's going to take you that long, but then you start doing it and you realise that like 2 hours have gone by and you've done like one side of the bed. I don't even have an excuse as to why it took so long. Maybe we're just that bad, but hey ho. It was worth it in the end. And don't worry, I've got a little walkthrough at the end of this video of us going through all these beds and showing you what's in them at the moment. We do actually finish this, I promise. helps doing this at like an early point in the year, like during the winter still. I think this was like January, February time we were doing this, because nothing's grown back yet, so it's a lot easier to actually get to places, because now all the grass and the plants have grown through, so it'd be a lot more difficult to actually get to the beds and paint them, even though the weather wasn't that fun. It was quite chilly and quite wet. And then I just went through and sort of refilled all the trenches that I dug to actually get to the wood. And yeah, this raised bed does look awful, but as I say, this is a tortoise enclosure, so it's not meant to be a perfect soil bed for vegetables. And here's me and Nicola going away at the third bed. We've only got 9 in total, so this is going well, isn't it? But these ones were a lot more damaged. As you can see, the wooden posts and the planks actually completely rotted away here. Yeah, you don't want your post looking like that. So it's a case of proper digging down deep and just pulling out all that rotten wood, which again, very time consuming, and it's one of those jobs you're like, oh, you don't think about that you'll need to do this when you start the project. So if you're going to do something like this, give yourself more time than you think. It's always a good shout. But luckily this didn't cost us anything, because we had all the materials already. Yeah, just a case of levering out all these rotten posts, because that really wasn't holding much up. And my beard has disappeared. It must have been a long time. I've de-aged. Look like a small child at this point. Painting as we went. We still had all like the weed membranes on top of the soil at this point to stop all those weeds coming through whilst we didn't have any vegetables to go in the patches just yet. And some of these planks were still usable. So like that one on the right there is obviously an original plank. I just had to cut off the rotted bit and then replace that part with fresh wood. This wire brush certainly got we got our money's worth out of it for this project, I'll tell you that much. Watching this back through, you can kind of see when I was just getting frustrated with painting. Because that's one thing, for some reason Nicola loves painting and I just hate painting. So yeah, I was trying to do more of the actual woodwork while she was happy painting away, following me afterwards. But yeah, this would have taken me so much longer if she didn't help, so big up Nicola for helping me out with this. It is quite satisfying though, once you actually do get the planks all cut to size and they just fit in nicely. Especially when it's painted over and you're just like, ah yeah, it was worth all that trouble. And obviously this would be a lot quicker to do if you knew what you were doing. But this was a case of figuring it out as we went along. It's usually how I end up doing things. Just sort of pretend I know what I'm doing and just make it up as I go. Doesn't actually give the best results usually, but hey ho. I would recommend planning ahead of time. So at this point I sort of skipped ahead. The rest of the big beds were pretty much similar to what you've just seen. So I skipped ahead to the smaller beds at the far end of the vegetable garden area. These ones were all in decent condition. This one, the herb bed here, was in a good condition. This just needed a lot of brushing off for all that algae and just a fresh coat. And then it was a case of actually getting in the bed and pulling out, because I don't even know what had taken over this, but it wasn't the herbs that were meant to be in there. So it was a case of giving it a fresh start, I should say. So I just got in there and just ripped everything out essentially. The only things that stayed were a few perennials that we had left, like some Vietnamese coriander was in there, some horseradish there in the left corner. And we ended up putting some new perennials in that you'll see at the end of the video. But yeah, things got a bit out of hand in this one, so it definitely needed a fresh start. And all of the beds need new organic matter going on. It's a bit late now in the season because we've got stuff growing in them now, so I'm thinking towards the end of this year they'll need some, hopefully some manure or something like that, just top them right to the top because the soil level's getting quite low And we usually go for sort of a no-dig approach. Now this was the middle bed, which has got our rhubarb and asparagus in. And I say rhubarb and asparagus, I didn't actually know that there was asparagus in this at the time. So you'll see in a minute I do something quite awful. I'm like, oh, what is this awful weed that's just got its roots everywhere? This needs to get dug out and removed so that I can put a fresh new wall in, because all the wood had rotted out. So yeah, this is quite hard to watch back. I soon realised after I'd done it what I had done. But yeah, that big awful ball of weed roots is actually a nice asparagus plant that had been there for quite a few years. But it's not all awful because it's actually started sprouting back, so I didn't murder it. Maybe it needed a bit of upheaval. I say that to justify my actions. Oh, it's painful. Poor little asparagus. I do put it back, don't worry. I put it back and it grows fine, so you don't have to run away. But you can see the rhubarb is just coming through here, so I'm trying to think when this was. I have got the dates on this footage, but I can't actually remember when it was. But all that, yeah, we've already had 2 kilos of harvest off of this rhubarb plant that you just see sprouting. It grows really quick, and I never used to like rhubarb, but now I love it. Good in crumbles, so yeah, pretty cool plant. And then it was a case of just cleaning up. Always clean up your work. Take the time to clean up as you go. It helps up a lot. Helps yourself out a lot. So yeah, I had to remove all these planks just so I could put a fresh 2 sides needed to go on this, really, because like that corner had rotted out. So I put a new post in either side and fresh planks. This is after I figured out how to actually build these things. Trying to get them nice and level and square. I've got a natural talent for making things not square. I definitely don't think I was destined to be a carpenter. And these beds are sort of like an odd shape compared to the other ones, so they just needed a little sort of buffer bit of wood there to extend them out to the right width. And also just trying to reuse as much of the original wood as I could. I didn't think there's no point replacing things if they're still in decent nick, so yeah, I tried to keep as much of the original as possible and only replace the really poor ones. Not only because, you know, it's good not to just waste things, but also I didn't have enough wood spare to actually replace everything that probably should have been replaced, so I had to sort of triage what planks needed new ones and what didn't. And this is me finally working on the last little bed. The far side plank had just come out and I was running on scraps at this point, so I was just screwing together smaller pieces of wood to make up the length. Getting desperate, but you know, if it works, it works. And there we are, that's what it looked like to begin with. And this is what it looks like now. Wow, that's what it looked like when we'd finished painting. So definitely a big improvement, I would say. And then it was about time to take the weed membranes off and start getting the beds ready for planting, as spring sort of came in and the temperatures started warming up. This was a really satisfying bit of it. Finally getting stuff ready to plant in them after all this time just faffing about with wood and paint. It's nice to actually get some soil involved. This was really nice under here. We had loads of fresh compost under here and it was just all full of worm castings. And it was time to start planting some veg. We've come into the greenhouse because it's time to plant some Brussels sprouts, which I'm gonna put in a little tray and we're gonna keep inside because it's too cold out here, even in the greenhouse. It's warm today because the sun's out, but it's still gonna get frosty and stuff next week. So we're gonna get these in a little tray and bring them inside. I don't even like Brussels sprouts, but I feel like you gotta grow them if you've got the seeds already. So, and other people in my family eat them. So we're gonna plant some Brussels sprouts. So we've got our little sieve and we're just gonna push. I'm doing it in a bigger tray so that if I make a mess I can just pour it back in. So break up the bigger clumps. Right, we're getting there. Depends on the compost you get, I suppose. Sometimes you get stuff that's really
lumpy and got loads of big branches and stuff in, and sometimes it's not too bad. So, but I feel like you can't go wrong sieving it. It makes it a lot easier for the seeds to come through. We've pretty much got a full tray of nice, fluffy, soft compost, and it's fairly moist already, actually. We'll just scatter them in because they've got to be transplanted out anyway. So we'll just following the instructions on the back. We'll just scatter them on top and then put some soil over the top. Well, I was expecting more in there, so I might have to just mix them up a bit in this. Okay. Perfect. So, water that tray and put it on a nice warm windowsill when the sun's somewhere, and hopefully in a few days we'll have some seedlings, little Brussels sprout seedlings starting to shoot through. So yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, definitely don't take advice on how to plant Brussels sprouts from me in the future, I suppose, because not a single one of those seeds germinated. Hey ho. So now I'm just moving on to making a lot more sort of seed starting mix of my own blend. We got some coconut coir here. We had a brick left over, so I thought I might as well make use of it. Good for starting seeds off. So I just sieved that through after I'd rehydrated it, and it gives this nice fluffy. It holds a lot of moisture, but also helps keep the mix airy. You don't want it too dense so that the air doesn't get in and everything just gets sort of waterlogged. So it's just a case of sieving a load of multi-purpose compost, some cocoa coir here, and mixing it through, and it'll make a nice seed starting mix. Hopefully things don't end up like my Brussels sprouts did. That just must have been bad seeds. I blame the seeds, honestly. Definitely not my fault. But yeah, sort of pre-batching a big load of seed starting mix here, ready for the big sowings that need to be going on. So we started this, I suppose, before we had finished the beds, just in the early months of the year, sort of January, February time. We were getting some sowings in, like these onions were probably some of the first things I had sown, along with I actually planted onion and garlic sets outside in one of the beds. One of the beds that didn't actually need repairing, so they were growing along during winter. We planted them probably around Boxing Day, I suppose. But here I am, yeah, and this was perlite I added, by the way, just to add some extra air to the mix, keep it nice and light and fluffy. Yeah, getting ready to sow a lot more things. Here we started off some cabbage. These are coming along a lot. They're huge, actually. At the time I'm actually recording this voiceover, these cabbages are like one of the biggest things in the greenhouse. They're like a foot high. So yeah, it's nice looking back and seeing that the ones I sowed actually did work. So you can take my advice on cabbage plantings at least. Just a case of sowing them out in pots and then keeping them somewhere warm inside until they germinate, and then keeping them somewhere bright. You could use grow lights or just on the windowsill. Light's sort of the biggest thing in the winter because you've got short days. It's hard for your plants to get enough light. But yeah, once these seedlings come through, then we'll just transplant them on into modules so that they've got a lot more space to grow up. But it's easier to sow into a small pot just because it saves space, especially if you've got a lot of things growing. Here, like under the lights, you see the cabbages have started to come through, and I'm not sure what I planted in those modules, but there's those same cabbages a few days later after I had transplanted them into modules. I also wanted to do an experiment with this little milk jug, trying to make sort of like a little mini greenhouse to germinate some seeds in. It didn't work, but that might have been the seeds. In fact, it was definitely the seeds, because I tried to do a second sowing of these cabbage seeds I put in here and they didn't come through again. So definitely a seed issue. Always blame your seeds. But these are a handy little trick with the milk jug here. Good to recycle, you know, you don't have to get through loads of plastic plant pots. You can use a lot of your kitchen waste plastic to grow some new food, which is a cool little thing to do, I think. So I often use a lot of like, you know, those crates that mushrooms come in, or like strawberry punnets, stuff like that. They're all perfect little trays for sowing seeds in. Then once I'd finished those cabbages, I was keen to get some peas going on as early as I could, so that as soon as it's warm enough to put them out, we could have peas growing out in the patches to get an earliest crop of peas as possible, because peas are always a favourite, especially fresh garden peas. Just eat them raw, they're so good. They're like a little sweet. So yeah, just 2 peas per module here. This was the early variety, I think. And then we also had some purple peas, which out of the 2 actually, the purple peas grew better, even though the ones on the left were an early onwards variety. The purple ones grew a lot better in my opinion. And this was the rest of all the things that I started to sow. So we got some more onions, starting to get some salad leaves in, spring onions, cucumbers now as it was starting to warm up, beetroots, parsnips, and some big squash. This was one of the big squash seeds. And these were the cucumbers we were planting here as well. Nicola helping me out. She's a big cucumber advocate, so she was helping me sow a lot of these seeds. Give them a nice thorough watering through after you've sown them. I just wanted to show what the greenhouse was looking like at this point. It was a bit of a mess. We do finally come around to clean it out and give ourselves a bit more space. Because when it's cold like this, and you got the English spring, which isn't exactly warm, although we have been quite lucky this year, you need as much room in the greenhouse as possible to try and keep your plants as warm as and growing well early on in the season. So yeah, it was definitely worth having a good clear out, making sure we had as much space as possible in there for all our new seedlings that were coming through. Especially because once again, half our growing space is taken up by tortoise enclosures, but it's worth it. Those were the cabbages that I sowed again that were in the milk jug and they didn't come through. But our tomatoes definitely germinated well. There's our cabbages again. There's the peas that shot through. See, they're growing really quick. And here's just me transplanting some tomatoes on. So they, as I say, we grew them in pots. And then once they're big enough seedlings like this, we just move them out into modules. Give them a lot more space to grow on. Just got to be really delicate. Only pick them up by the leaves, because if you damage the stem or like the main root, then you've pretty much killed your seedling. But as long as you're gentle with it, then you've got really nothing to worry about. Just sort of tuck them in. I did learn actually to wait a bit longer, sort of wait for the tomatoes at least to get their first true leaves before I transplanted the seedlings, because when I started to do them when they were this small, I had a few that just wouldn't make it. So yeah, I waited a bit longer. Then we finally got hold of some decent seed potatoes. So we got our first earlies and our second earlies here. So obviously first early is going to be going in first, then the second, then your main crop as well, which I also got some twister potatoes for the main crop, just a few. And it was just a case of chitting them at this point because it's too cold to plant them. So I've just put them into these egg crates with the sprouts facing up, and you put them in somewhere bright and they start to sprout before you plant them, basically give them a head start. And then we started to get our strawberry planters filled up. So yeah, we had to sort of restart our strawberries because we had loads in there, but they just weren't fruiting like they used to, because strawberries are perennial, so they die off and then come back. So we wanted sort of some fresh plants in there. So my parents actually got some from Lidl. So we just put some fresh liners, some fresh compost in our troughs here, and hopefully they do better with a sort of a fresh start. But I did end up planting, which you will see in this video, all the old sort of strawberry bulbs kind of thing, or crowns, whatever you call them, elsewhere, to give them a sort of a second chance and see if we can't, here we are, yeah, see if you can't get some more fruits off them. So all of the old crowns I just sort of trimmed off, all the old dead bits. So they're basically just like a bulb, if you think about it like that. Think about like a dandelion bulb. Yeah, you're able to just plant this and it will re-sprout again when it starts to warm up. So in this area, it started off as like a herb bed, but it kind of got a bit overgrown. A lot of wild garlic growing here, but I started clearing it out to make some room for the strawberries. So we had plenty of them to go in. So yeah, it was just a case of getting all the weeds out and planting these little strawberries in. I try to do them in rows, just because it also, not only does it look nicer, but it helps a lot when it comes to weeding. you can just get the hoe in there between the rows and just cut out all of the weeds, helping those little strawberry shoots to pop through and not get blocked out from the light. And then of course Nicola decided it needed a fresh coat of paint, so she got her trusty paintbrush out again and made these strawberry planters look a lot better than they did before. It's surprising what a bit of paint can do. Make these tired looking strawberry planters can go from looking pretty naff, to be honest, to looking a lot fresher and yeah, ready for the summer season and hopefully a bumper crop of strawberries. So here's Nicola cracking on with painting them in a nice little two-tone colour scheme. Our next project on the list was a bean arch. So we wanted a nice tall arch that we could walk under, and our runner beans would grow up it so that we could sort of walk through and pick them from underneath. Adds a nice bit of vertical interest to the garden area as well. So it was just a simple case of getting these pieces of wood here. These were just like treated outdoor pieces. They've been out for ages and they hadn't rotted, so I was like, oh, they must be treated. So just got 4 posts up, and then some of this was old pig fencing that we had in the garden. This sort of heavy gauge wire mesh fence, and we just sort of fixed it to these 4 posts into a nice arch. A lot trickier than you think. It was another case of making it up as we went along, but yeah, it worked really well in the end. Just stapling them in with these little sort of staples. And then these peas were well overdue going out. They were far bigger than they needed to be inside the greenhouse, so time to get them out. Yeah, look at those root bound modules. Time to get them out into the soil itself now it warmed up. These were the purple peas. They shot up huge. For some reason they just got massive. Might have been to do with the lack of light in the colder months. And that's our garlic coming through and our onions. And then we started cracking on. We're getting some rows of carrots in one of the far beds here. And these were the carrots that come the seeds come on a tape like this. The tape breaks down and the seeds are like nicely spaced out, because carrots can suffer from not being spaced out enough because the seeds are so small. So we're just getting them in a trench, watering them in and backfilling it. Quite simple with these tapes, they're quite handy. And these were my parsnip seeds that I sort of chitted like you would a potato, sort of pre-sprouted them before planting, just on a damp paper towel somewhere warm. And it just helps them get going, because parsnip seeds can be really slow to germinate. And then just a normal trench of carrot seeds, just straight from the packet as well. And then we had our good friend Will over to come help with some gardening.
Oh, Jesus.
Where's the seeds gone? Anywhere you like.
Yeah, but you asked it which way it wants to go?
8
meters.
Is it 8 meters? Is it? What does it say on the thing?
It's not fucking 8 meters. That's ready for what? This.
Jeez.
Oh, look at that. I put sunflowers. You put the date. You put
giant sunflowers. The date.
I just put giant.
Bruh.
I just put
deleted it. Bro, you're the
they,
craziest cameraman.
how long do they need?
Right, that'll do no more.
More?
Yeah, they're thirsty. It's a hot day.
They went.
Do you think people would rather see the watering can or Will?
Me, 100%.
How's that?
Nicola misses a lot of the good content.
She's too busy. Gotta make sure they're covered though. If they're not covered, they won't grow.
So they're going to be covered.
And then after all that chaos, it was time to take a look at all the seedlings that we had coming through now. The greenhouse was starting to fill up really nicely, and we had a lot of healthy looking seedlings coming through. Of course we had a lot of failures, loads of stuff didn't germinate or just came through really weak or maybe died when it was small, but that's just part of it. You just gotta sow again and hope for the best next time. Adapt your the way you're doing things, and hopefully you get some better success. These radishes look really nice, ready to go in. Perfect little modules here. We sort of multi-sowed these, so maybe there's 3 or 5 to a module, and then they just go in like a little cluster straight in next to the carrots that we sowed previously. Now these are one of Nicola's favourite veg, so she was taking extra care, making sure that the radishes grew on nicely. And yeah, at the time I'm recording this, they are looking really nice and healthy. And this is beetroot, I think, going in here as well. Oh no, sorry, perpetual spinach that was. And then also some of my salad onions. I've been putting sort of rows of onions here and there to hopefully act as a pest deterrent as well. I've heard that onions can help deter slugs, so I've been putting them here and there between rows of other things that may get attacked by slugs. And then Nicola decided it was a good time to get a fresh coat of paint on the greenhouse and get that looking nice and fresh here.
Okay, so after what took a lot longer than it probably should have, like multiple months just to do this, we finally got to a point now where, if you come with me, all of the raised beds are kind of at the point where we can plant, and some of them have already been planted. This one's pretty much done. We've got parsnips, carrots, radishes which never appeared, carrots, sprungions, or spring onions, I call them sprungions for some reason. Radishes are coming along nicely. Nicola's excited for those because she likes radishes and I hate them. More spring onion, no, sorry, salad onions these are, not spring onions. Just a bigger spring onion. What did I put in here? I put labels, but I didn't actually write on them. So that's a good idea. There's something in there. Oh, more carrots, I think. These are actually big onions. These are Eliza Craig onions. Beetroots, multicolored beetroot and red shine, and more big onions. That's pretty much this whole bed filled out for now. And we're hoping these will grow pretty quick and we'll be able to get like a second load of crops in as well. And there's also a few flowers planted in. We've got some calendulas, poached egg plant, I believe, or a lycium. And we're saving some space here to put some bigger plants in as well. This one's going to be our tomato bed, if our tomatoes actually grow outside. So I don't want to say the B word, but you know the disease I'm talking about. We've got some lettuces in already. Onions and garlics are coming along nicely. Mulch them up good, so hopefully they will grow big and juicy. This one looks like a mess, and everyone probably thinks, oh, it's just a garden bed full of weeds, and that is exactly what it is. But that's because that's our tortoise enclosure, outdoor tortoise pen. So that's all tortoise food, not weeds, not what it looks like. And spinach, finally, over here. We've got some spinach and some more salad onions. This is perpetual spinach, this is giant spinach. So we can sort of compare the two. Peas over here, which you can't get to because of plastic. The lady. And then over here we've got some mange 2 growing nicely, some blau chocker, I don't know, the German word. They're purple peas, some normal peas, they're just an early variety, and a patch of mustard which just self-seeded. So there must have been mustard here growing in previous years, which there might have been, I can't remember. Big old rhubarb patch with some, if you look under here, oh, I hope the rain hasn't damaged them. Some asparagus, yay! Which is starting to get thin and spindly, so we should probably harvest that. So we can actually eat at least one spear of asparagus. But there's a few coming through, they're just a bit, I don't know, they don't look the strongest. And that's our perennial herbs. In terms of what perennial herbs we've actually got in here, a few things have sprouted through, which we hadn't. Well, to be fair, it was a bit of a mess, as you probably saw, so we didn't know what we had in here. But I've put a new thyme in, which was over there in a pot, which was very heavily pot bound. There was like no compost left inside its pot, so that one should be a lot happier in there. We've got some oregano coming through here, which smells tasty. This is bloody weed, which we don't like. This is some Vietnamese coriander, but it doesn't smell or taste anything like coriander. It doesn't look anything like coriander. I don't know why it's called coriander, but it's Vietnamese and you can use it and stuff. We've yet to find something to put it in though, but it looks nice. Horseradish coming along nicely. Hopefully we should harvest some of that because I swear it grows here every year and we never actually use it, so we might as well make some horseradish this year. And finally I just chucked that big woody rosemary in there because that was in a pot as well and wasn't doing too good. So hopefully it sort of fills out a bit. Now it's in a bed itself. Got some wild garlic coming through here, but we got millions of it over there, so certainly not short on that. And some nice big chives. And then more chives, some calendulas, rosemary, I think, in those little pots. Now onto the little greenhouse area bit we've got going on. First of all, we've got a little salad bed going on up here. Just planted these in a couple days ago, so they've yet to sort of... So they have coloured up like a lot nicer than, a lot quicker than I was expecting. This is a Lolo Rosso lettuce, which is like a curly leaf one. Rocket, sort of red leaf salad it's called. I don't think it has a proper name. And all the year round lettuce, which is more like a heading lettuce. Big round juicy one. And there's also some actual spring onions intermittently put throughout there to maybe stop some slugs, I'm hoping. And some nasturtiums coming through as well. And then that bit is a mess. We won't worry about that. Well, everywhere's a mess. Got some new plants my mum picked up the other day. I don't want to get involved in case I break them, so I'm going to let her deal with that. Some mint coming through there that I potted up. Some sweet peas, the only survivors of a load of sweet peas that we did, and they just died. So yeah, big sad. And then in the actual greenhouse itself, nice and warm. Cabbages we've got doing very well over here, although they don't like it too warm, so they should probably come out of here soon. Some more cabbages. I don't know why we've got so many cabbages. We've got some big onions that need to go in. I need to find a space for them. Some coriander coming through. This is all our salads in plugs that need to go out at some point. Swiss chard, sweet corn. We had a big struggle bus with the sweet corn. This one's germinated quite nicely, but we did a whole module tray like that and only like 2 came through, which are these ones. So, oh, whoops. I don't know if I planted them wrong or we just got dodgy corn, but yeah, we've kind of been struggling with the germination on it. And then this is Nicola's Pride and Joy. Our broad beans.
Whoa.
I can't remember ever eating a broad bean, truth be told, but apparently they're nice, so we've got them coming through. Done these in toilet roll tubes, so the whole thing can just go in the ground like that, which is pretty nice. I like it. A little package deal. Runner beans, of course, which is going to go on our bean arch, which you might have seen us build already, or you're going to see us build. Sunflowers, mallow musk, these little chappies. These are our 2 Mediterranean spur-fly tortoises, which are currently in here because it's not too warm outside at the moment. We just got to hope they don't get out and eat everything. And these are obviously the guys that live in that raised bed out there. Peppers are doing quite well. Some of these are getting quite big, actually. I say they're getting quite big. They're not actually how old they are. I planted these like months ago. Hello. You want to get in the video? Make me famous. Cucumbers in the back. More sunflowers. More sunflowers.
Let's have a look at the cukes. They're growing nice.
Nicola's cukes and cornichons. Beauties. They're obviously going to stay in here because they're indoor varieties. Watch my head on this one. Oh yeah. We got 2 big... What kind of squash were these again? These are doing really well. They're like kabocha squash. Kabocha squash. Don't even know what that is, but they're growing well, I can tell you that much for free. And I'm surprised they're not actually like sort of pot bound yet. The roots are down there, but they're not like gaping as yet. So they're doing very well. These will go out once it's warmed up a lot more. And they could do with a water actually. Got a few herbs up here, some mint, some basil, some parsley. Lots more sunflowers. We had a bit of an issue with the sunflowers where they didn't germinate as well. I feel like it's a skill issue rather than a seed issue, but I did a different batch and these ones will come through quite nicely. And these are in the cardboard pot, so the whole thing can just go in. Because apparently sunflowers don't like getting their roots disturbed. Down below, we've got a few of our early potatoes in sacks. In some compost down there, and we've got pots of wildflowers, carrots, and some more flowers, I believe. Cactus area. This goes out during the summer. But obviously, with British winter, they spend most of their time in here. All of our tomatoes that we got so far. Doing all right. They haven't died yet, which is good. But, you know, tomatoes can be tricky. We've got some more that needs putting up today, actually. These are seedlings. I'm waiting till they're really big till I transplant them, because when they were small, when I pricked them out, they just died.
It's like, excuse me, that makes a bad.
Attention seeking. What else we got? Some more lettuce, some more radish.
Broccoli and cauliflower.
Broccoli and cauliflower's coming through nicely. Some different onions. This is our alyssum, our wildflower, which hopefully should attract some nice hoverflies. And all our different seedlings coming through. Some nasturtiums. What else is there? Basil. We've got quite a few packets of old seeds, like sow by 2020 seeds. We've just chucked in the ground and hope for the best. They'll just go in the bin otherwise, so might as well give it a crack. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the greenhouse at the moment. But I'm sure it'll be, once the tortoises are outside for the summer and the cactuses are out, there's a lot more room, so we can fill it up with more plants. But yeah, that's it for now.
This is a very
We need a bloopers bit at the end of your video then.
Sunshine flowers with a sunshine kid. That's because it's that. Where else should we put some? Should we put some in that corner as well?